So how did you become a music artist?
I think there were many reasons why I became a music artist. First and foremost, I think because my father, he was a Hafiz of Quran, and he used to have a very beautiful recitation, and in family functions and gatherings, I would always listen to him. And I think that slowly got me interested in using my voice as a tool for Islam. And then in high school, I did my first performance, and I got a great feedback from the people. And I think from that point, at the age of 15, I really took it seriously. And lo and behold, Allah brought me to where we are today.
That's great. Okay, walk us through how you compiled the album I Believe, and tell us what it's all about.
I Believe is actually what the album is entitled. It's about, my belief in Allah and my faith in Islam. And what I'm trying to portray is, the beautiful message of Islam to humankind. And hopefully we can, put some positive words and music into the mainstream and into the Islamic scene, so our youth and Muslims in general can be inspired and be proud to be Muslims. And I think there's a lot of tracks on the album that relate to everyday life. The problems that I face, the problems that you might face, the problems that any other youngster might face. So I think it's very relative, and it has a lot to do with what's going on in society today.
Okay. How much of your Pakistani roots influence your music?
Oh, I think they influenced me quite a bit because, like I said, my father used to, he was also a musician too. He liked singing. My brothers, they're, fairly established musicians too. So I think it runs in the family, and I think, culture is important, and I think the Pakistani culture has a big influence on what I do and, what I try to portray.
Okay, so how has your music been perceived in Canada?
I think it's been a great response. It's slowly exploring more and more, and I think the Canadian public, we have so many different cultures and backgrounds, so I think it's a good thing. But at the same time, I think it takes a little more time to be accepted because you have so many different cultures, so many different personalities and ways of looking on life. But slowly, and alhamdulillah, it's growing, and we look forward to producing more and more music and stuff for the Canadian public and the public in general.
Okay. Finally, in what shape or form does your music impact others?
I believe it impacts them because it comes from my heart, and I think if something comes from your heart and if it's sincere, then I think it doesn't take too much for another person to accept it and to understand what you're trying to portray. So I think what I try to bring out is the positivity of Islam, the sincerity of Islam, and just a great message to the human public and to the human family.
Thank you for speaking to Aslan Media.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So first of all, what are the reasons behind leaving the mainstream music industry, where you worked with internationally renowned artists to modern Islamic music?
I think basically I was working, as you said, in the mainstream industry, and many things happened in my life, and I had so many questions and everything, and I got to know some new friends, and from that, and they were practicing Muslims. From that, I attended some lectures and stuff like that, and I had this change of heart. It took time, of course, to change and to decide that I want to leave and everything, but that was the main reason why I felt that there's something more precious in this life that you can do and that you can use your talent for. So this is where I decided to change. At first, I decided to quit working with music, and but then I got inspired because I had so many things to share, and I know a lot of young people in the West, everywhere, go through identity crisis, questioning a lot of questions, and confusions. So I thought, I can share a lot of things with them, and the music was the best way for me to do it.
Okay, as a Muslim artist, how do you think you portray Islam as a religion?
I think Islam can be portrayed from every angle. There's so many talents, young people and people with talents that they can. There are people who can write books about Islam. There are people who can make films. There's so many ways, and I think all of these are important. because we have many people like to listen to music, many people like to watch read books, watch TV, etc., etc. So I think this is one of the parts that are very important, how to reach out to people and tell them, about Islam, and try to do it in a positive way, of course.
Where do you get your inspiration for your music?
Everywhere. Really life, like faith, Islam, traveling, just meeting a lot of people, watching TV, everything. Inspiration comes from everything. And I really have so many things I want to sing about. Like for this album, my second album we had like 50 ideas, So alhamdulillah, we have ideas for 5 more albums.
Wow. Is there an artist that you look up to as a role model or has a great impact in your music?
I don't have a specific artist, honestly. There's so many, like vocal wise, arrangement wise, sound wise that have inspired me. But I've worked with a producer named Rodwan, and I learned a lot from him. So he's been, I think, my mentor in making music.
Okay. So your new album, Forgive Me, has just been released.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you compiled it and what the album is about.
Okay, so my new album is called Forgive Me, and it's one of the tracks in the songs, one out of 14 tracks. And basically it's the same, I think, for everyone who heard my first album. It's basically the same sound and everything, the content, but of course it's new songs, new topics we're singing about. But I tried as much as possible to keep the same direction in the album, as for like Islamic message and positive messages, uplifting, joy, and entertaining and all these kind of things. But at the same time, I wanted to, of course, refresh somehow. So we focused a lot on the quality, we focused a lot on the production, we used some new elements like saxophone and new instruments, so to make it more interesting and everything. But inshallah, people will see it's a new album, new songs, and inshallah they will love it.
Your hit single, Number One For Me, exceeded 1 million views on YouTube within 1 week of its release.
Yes.
What is it about this song that created such charisma?
I think because it's about the mother, and the mother is one of the most precious person on earth, and she should be number one for all of us. And I think it's a very joyful song. It's uplifting, it's positive, it's emotional as well, and the video plays a big role. That it's like it's a very fun video. It reminds us how naughty we can be when we were young. So I think it's a fun way. It's actually now, I think it passed almost 1.6 million.
And finally, tell us about your musical inspiration that came from your father, who is also a singer.
Yeah, I think definitely my passion for music, or my interest for music, started when I was very young. My father, he was a local singer in Lebanon, and from there I used to be with these local events and just watch the band, like, wow, it's so nice, sounds good and everything. So it started, it grew a love inside of me for music, and from there, it's just for fun until I reached the age of 24 when I started working on a professional level, and so it's definitely came from there.
Well, thank you for speaking to Aslan Media. First of all, tell us a bit about how you became a nasheed artist.
From a very young age, I was involved, and I was part of this kind of songs, especially the traditional Turkish songs, nasheeds. And I was inspired more from my father and grandfather. So also my grandfather had a very good voice, and my father still has a very good voice. So I started from my primary school, being part of small music groups, trying to sing with them and learning from them. And then slowly I became a part also of one of the most popular chorus in Macedonia in secondary school, because we had our music also chorus. I was also part of that, and after I finished my studies there, I came here to UK to study Arabic language and Sharia in Wales. So Professionally, I can say that after I knew brothers from Awakening Company, I met them, and then we decided together to do something professional, and everyone took a responsibility, because to pass this, to be successful on this, you have to have a good company, and you have to have a good brothers who will work on the projects, because it's not enough only to have a good voice or to have a talent.
Yeah.
So you need to have a big support. So since 2003 we did the agreement, and on 2004 I released my first album, Salabat, and my journey started like this.
Okay, how would you describe your music?
I'm more concentrated because every artist has a different aim on his life, but I'm more concentrated on our traditional songs. So I think that we own a big treasure, from our Islamic heritage. So the new generation, they are a little bit far from this reality, and especially I think Western people needs to know more about our culture, our traditional culture. So there are just few people who are working on this, but it's not only just to sing about that. Also, it's to improve yourself, or when you produce, when you promote your work, you have to do that professionally, as we did on my first album. We promoted Qasidatul Burda, for example. That was a very traditional song, but we took to another level by shooting the video of that song, and so like that we started to build this and to give that message that we own very, very good songs in our heritage, Islamic heritage. So the new generation needs to know about it more and more. So I'm thinking, in my future, of course, I will have new songs too, as I did in my second album, Beloved. But also, I always will try to keep our traditional songs, to keep them popular by making new arrangements, and as I said, this is all around my music is all around the traditional songs more. Mm-hmm. But the messages, of course, mostly are about our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, madaih, yani. And but also in the same time I have different kind. I'm talking about different kind of topics, also social issues too. I have many songs of that. Like this, I will continue, inshallah.
What message does your music reveal? So apart from this heritage and that you've been discussing, like what
first the messages, I think, is a love about our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because if we want to know about our faith, our deen more and more, we have to know him first, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if we want to know his history, we have to love him, because if we follow him and love him, so that means we love God and Allah Azza wa Jalla. So the songs, when we sing about our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we make people think about him more and more, and then start to follow him and to know more about Islam. So this is the first aim, the message. The second message, and third and fourth, there are many. As I told you, sometimes we are talking about creation of God, of Allah Azza wa Jalla, just to know how He is great and how He created us in such a beautiful, way. So we are also talking about it too. And as I told you before, I just also I had some songs, especially talking about, especially that was in Turkish language, what I sang. It's about being against of wars and being against of pressure to the people. Especially that was in Turkish language. I also sang it about hijab, you know, how hijab is great, and how protects the woman, and talking about that value more. So I can add more and more topics. So messages, also social messages, because our deen, faith, also is a social faith, we can say. It's not talking only about praying, ibadats, also it's talking about our life, and it's part of our life. So the message is universal, and it's not only to a Muslim. It's of course also the message to the whole humanity. So we have to make to be more concentrated on that too. To be careful that we are not talking only to the Muslims, and the message is not only for the Muslims. It's all, of course, also for the all humanity.
Okay. So why have you used the means of singing to express Islam? For example, you could have chosen to write a book, you could have chosen to do so many other things, but you've chosen to sing about Islam.
Of course, I studied Sharia. Of course, one of my aims was also to be part of promoting, or not promoting, how can I say? Spreading the message of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And I'm trying to do that in my country, and everywhere where I go, I try to talk and to spread the message. But Allah Azza wa Jalla created everyone with the different talents. So I had this talent. First I used it, then I said, okay, I will stop because I'm studying now Sharia, and I want to concentrate on this. So I met many brothers, especially from Awakening. They said, you have to use this chance. So this is very good. Allah gave you this talent, so you have to use it. And of course I was with that. But after I found this company, after I found this professional brothers, so I said, this is what Allah gave me. So I have to use this to spread the message better and better. So, as I told, if I had a different talent, I could be a writer, of books, or I could help people, help humanity by doing something else. But this is my talent, so that's why I'm doing this work.
Okay, so the final question is, what is your new album, Beloved, about? Tell us a bit more about this new album.
Beloved is more, of course, the first song, The Beloved, is also about our Prophet. It's a very new song, so it's not traditional, but the whole album, when we see the whole album, are more about new songs, and but in traditional way we made it. We talk about different topics, social issues, as I told you, and which is very important. In Salawat we did in 3 languages. I sang it in the same album, but on this album I did a special copy for Arabs, and a little bit sang it in English. So also in the same time I did a special copy for the Turks in Turkey, and of course for the Turks who lives in Europe and everywhere, where I go, I try to promote that part. So this is what can I talk about my second album, and that was just 3 years ago I released it. Now I'm doing new stuff,
Okay, well, excellent. Thank you so much for speaking to Aslan Media.
Yeah, and I'm thanking you for